Welcome back, everybody, to another May God Have Mercy on Your Soul episode of Lockdown 23 and 1. That's right, today we have part 2 of defendants getting sentenced to life and death in prison. And like I said, this is part 2 of a series, alright? Every 6 months to a year, I do a little highlighting or recapping of some of the wildest life and death sentences that came across this channel. So hopefully you enjoyed today's lineup of clips, and if you want to watch the full episode, I'll keep them linked in the description and comment section below in the order that you see them. But as always, before we get into that, if you're new to the channel and enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is where you want to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Fishburne, I will begin with count 2, the kidnapping charge to which you pled guilty and to which this court will now adjudicate you guilty and sentence you to life in prison. The court will assess the mandatory felony court costs of $518 and total public defender fees of $150, and that's $50 for application and $100 for service. And as to count 1 for murder in the first degree, Mr. Fishburne, the court has carefully considered and weighed the proven aggravators and all of the mitigating circumstances. The law requires the court to give great weight to the jury's recommendation that the defendant be sentenced to death. And after assessing the proven aggravating factors and all of the mitigating circumstances, as well as the evidence presented to this court at the Spencer hearing, this court is in agreement with the jury's recommendation. So accordingly, this court finds that death is the appropriate penalty for the defendant, given the highly egregious nature of this crime. You have not only forfeited your right to live among us, but under the laws of the state of Florida, you have forfeited your right to life. The scales of life versus death in the murder of Aisha Levy tilt in favor of death. Mr. Fishburne, I will now adjudge you guilty of murder in the first degree and sentence you to death for the murder of Aisha Levy. You are hereby notified that this sentence is subject to automatic review by the Supreme Court of the state of Florida, and counsel will be appointed by separate order to represent you for that purpose. It is also further ordered that you be transported to the Department of Corrections to be securely held on Florida's death row until the sentence can be carried out as provided by law. So, Mr. Fishburne, may God have mercy on your soul. That concludes the sentencing today.
You forfeited your right to live. May God have mercy on your soul. Homeboy will never see the streets again.
That being said, I find, based on the facts and circumstances of this case in consideration of the relevant sentencing factors, applying the minimum sanction I've determined will protect the public and punish the offender without imposing an unnecessary burden on state or local resources. As to 2206-2276, count 1, improper handling of a firearm in a motor vehicle, I'm imposing 18 months in the Ohio Department of Corrections. I'm not imposing any fines, and the court will take judgment against you for the cost of this prosecution. I'm also
18
ordering,
months.
pursuant to specification 1 to count 1, that the Riley defense RAK 47 be forfeited. As to 2209-3102, the state of Ohio having chose to proceed with sentencing on count 1, murder and unclassified felony, I'm imposing a sentence of life in prison with the eligibility of parole after 15 years. Specification 1 to count 1, specification 1 to count 2, I'm imposing a mandatory prison term of 3 years on each count and pursuant to 2929-14B1G.
Man, I'll tell you what, this judge is like part cyborg.
Those offenses will run consecutive and not concurrent to each other and be served prior to and consecutive with the life sentence that you're facing.
Not looking good for him. That's for sure. Where's my smoke button? It's coming. I can smell it already.
I have considered the mitigating circumstances that have been well presented by the defense in this case. Mr. Kuchergis, you have done an excellent job in representing your client and providing this court with mitigation.
Yeah, his attorney did great, by the way. I forgot to mention
This
that.
court has carefully thought and weighed and considered your client's age, his lack of any prior criminal history, the fact that he was suffering from a depressive, clearly a depressive state of mind when this happened, and his age.
Man, that judge is really struggling to sentence him here, it sounds like.
This court does not impose a sentence based on vengeance,
Oh, no.
as was mentioned, that the courts are not here to sentence out of vengeance.
Oh, man, when the judge says before sentencing that this sentencing is not based upon revenge, it's because he's checking his hands, man. He's about to give him way more time than he ever or anybody probably ever expected.
The impact that this crime has had on Madison, Jacqueline, and Kennedy, it just far outweighs any of the mitigation that this court has considered.
Far outweighs.
There are just certain crimes that are committed that merit the maximum possible sentence.
Oh, man.
To 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder with a weapon. As to counts 1 and 3 of the information, you are adjudicated guilty. You are sentenced to serve the remainder of your life in prison.
Damn. He
As to
can't
count
believe it.
5,
Tunnel
you are
vision.
adjudicated guilty. You are sentenced to serve 30 years in Florida State Prison.
Smoked.
All sentences are to run concurrent with each other. Madam Clerk, please reflect that he has 536 days that he has previously served and impose the standard felony court costs.
Now let's jump into the courtroom and witness a long list of crimes this individual's about to get sentenced for.
Josiah Hewley. I can't see him. Mr. Hewley, count 1, felony murder. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 1. Count 3, violation.
Already life without parole plus 20 consecutive. That means he's got to do the life sentence, come back to life, and do the other 20. And you're going to be hearing a lot about street gang activity. Look, these guys are accused of being a part of the 9 Trey Bloods, a violent street gang. So you know what that means. Everything's going to be enhanced from the amount of crimes he got to the amount of time he gets sentenced to prison. Everything is amplified if you're a registered gang member.
Count 3, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 2.
Life plus
Count
40.
10, hijacking a motor vehicle. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 3. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 10. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 11.
Life plus 100.
Count 13, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. I sentence you to 5 years consecutive to count 12. Count 14,
He looks mad.
violation of Street Gang Terrorism Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 13. Count 15, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 14.
And, but none of it can change the loss. Edward, he was a son, and his life totally didn't need to get taken. You did hear his girlfriend's testimony. She didn't feel like she had been hurt or needed him dead at that point. She was standing beside him washing the pepper spray out of their eyes. She kind of understood why he pulled her out of the fight. You know, he just didn't want her to get caught up in this fight between women. So I hope that someday, you know, I'm going to give you the maximum sentence here, which is the mandatory one, which will have you in prison until you die. My hope is
welcome
that,
to Sizzlers.
you know, someday during that time, you reflecting on this can come up with the courage to do the right thing and to beg his family for forgiveness. And that's not today, and they may not be ready to hear that today, but I'll tell you, this was a young man that didn't need to die, and he definitely didn't need to die in the way that you killed him. So on that first count, which is homicide, open murder in the first degree, premeditated murder, you said you didn't think about it. Well, truth is, you don't need to think about it for a day before anything like that. I think when you saw that fight, you said, hey, he dishonored the girl that you knew, but you didn't have a real close connection. She was a connection of yours, but not a close connection. And I'm gonna shoot him. And that was the video that got shown.
That's wild,
up here from the adjacent house that said, you know, had your voice in it, saying that.
Now, hold on. You ain't about to do that. That wasn't even my voice. The family already said that was his voice. He said, I'm gonna shoot you, motherfucker. The family said that shit.
You can tell it to the Court of Appeals and see if they buy it. That's not the sole reason. But I'm just saying, you thought about this ahead of time and you decided, well, that's what you're going to do. And I just walked through the events. The sentence is one that you earned here.
You better chill out, bro. Clark been waiting for this for the last 6 months. And did you hear what the judge said? He said you could tell it to the Court of Appeals. Maybe they'll buy it. God, this judge, you know, he's treacherous, but in a very nonchalant way.
But I'm just saying, you thought about this ahead of time and you decided, well, that's what you're going to do. And I just walked through the events. The sentence is one that you earned here, and that is a sentence of mandatory life imprisonment without parole. That is, you'll be in the Michigan Department of Corrections until you die.
What about to sit there and lie and say they will say what we want to say?
Like they say, anything I say you can take up with the Court of Appeals. The count 2 here is a felony firearms possession by the weapons. This is the same thing I should have sentenced you on the first time. This time I am going to sentence you on it. It will be 7 years. Your guidelines there were supplied by the Department of Corrections.
Let him breathe for a second, Bobby.
And I have them in front of me. 24 to 76 months. That is, I guess that's 6 years at the high end, and so it'll be 6 years to 20 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. That will be
Plus the
concurrent
life
with
jank.
the mandatory life sentence. In addition to that, you do have 2 felon in possession of firearms charges or felony firearm charges. Those both result in mandatory 2-year sentences that are served prior to and consecutive to counts 1 and 2.
Them shower shoes
in
are
those
smogged
cases, you
out,
both serve
man.
2 years without credit.
Looking like the
prior to
Roadrunner.
Consecutive to the mandatory life without parole.
Look at his turn.
You do have 457 days of jail credit that will apply on counts number.
I mean, what do you expect, man? You can't just come in there blasting people in the back, washing mace off their face.
Jason Allen Thornburg, you have been
here we
adjudged
go.
by a jury to be guilty of capital murder, and the juror has answered the special issues, making it mandatory that your punishment be death. Therefore, this court sentences you, Jason Allen Thornburg, to death. The clerk of this court shall no
Smell it.
later than the 10th day after this court enters its
Lifetime
order
of
setting
smoke
the
right
date
there.
for execution, issue a warrant under the seal of this court for the execution of
What
the
happens when
sentence
you
of
eat
death,
people's
which
hearts?
shall be directed to the Director of the Correctional Institutions Division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice at Huntsville, Texas, commanding the Director to proceed at the time and place named in the order of execution to carry the same into execution. This sentence shall be executed at any time after the hour of 6 p.m. on the day set for the execution by intravenous injection of a substance or substances in a lethal quantity sufficient to cause death and until
that's
you,
scary
Jason
sounding,
Allen
man.
Thornburg, are dead. Such execution procedure
Really
to
happy
be
not to be in
determined
that
and
guy's
supervised
shoes.
by the Director of the Correctional Institutions Division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
For the aggravated murder of Dejon Willis, Christopher Monroe, Ayanna Quitman, Jasmine Lawson and Jasmine Lawson's unborn. I'm ordering a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. For count
Without
16,
the
I'm
possibility of
aggravated
parole.
burglary, 10 years in prison. Count 28, the attempted murder of Mr. Reuben James, that's 11 years in prison. For the having weapons under disability, as I previously stated, this is 2 additional times that you have used and had a gun. That's 36 months for each of those counts. For counts 1, 7, and 28, I am imposing the 54-month firearm specifications. Those will all run consecutive to one another. Except for count 16, all counts will run consecutive to one another. I am imposing consecutive sentences, finding that the consecutive prison terms are necessary to punish you and protect the public from future crime.
But as he sits here today, I don't know if he's really sorry. I have serious reservations about it. I know he's sorry about the consequences of going to prison for the rest of his life. But I can't say that I think he's sorry for having killed these 2 innocent human beings.
Oh, he ain't never gonna see the streets
He's a very
again.
selfish person, as I think the jury saw. That was something that his character kind of came through, and we asked, who is Ali Abulaban? That's who he is. He's somebody that is only thinking about himself.
Yup.
And the idea of killing 2 innocent people doesn't disturb him. It's chilling. So the bottom line here is he will die in prison. He will never be a free man. He will take his last breath there.
Where's my smoke?
Please. In this matter,
He definitely needs a smoke after that engulfing.
To life without the possibility of probation.
Sheesh.
Via Penal Code Section 1190.2.
That's thick and super hardy.
3. Consecutive to that will be 25 years to life on the gun enhancement under Penal Code Section 12022.53D. Consecutive to count 1 will be count 2, which will be life without the possibility of parole. Penal Code Section 190.2, parent A3. Consecutive to that will be the gun enhancement of 25 to life under Penal Code Section 12022.53D. Total prison term, 50 years to life plus LWOP.
Ms. Owens, please stand. Ms. Owens, I've been practicing law for a really long time. And I practice criminal defense. I practice civil law. And I've been on the bench. I've been a jurist for 25 years.
She's put into work.
This is by far the most heinous, evil
Oh,
that I
man.
have ever seen in my entire career. And I do not understand it.
That's right,
As
Your Honor.
attorneys, jurists, we see really good people come in front of us based on their really worst days. But you didn't just have a bad day. The crimes and evil that was perpetrated against these 3 children is something that I will never understand. Nor will I ever forget it. Based on that, the court does hereby sentence you as follows. Account 1, malice murder. You are hereby sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Count 7 merges with count 3.
7 into 4.
I'm sorry, 7 into 4. Count 6 merges into count 3. And count 5 merges to count 2. Counts 2, 3, and 4 are vacated by operation of law. On the remaining counts, counts 8 through 18, and counts 19 and 21, the court does hereby sentence you to consecutive 235 years.
Yikes.
So life without parole plus 235.
Welcome to Sizzlers.
You will never see the light of day
Ooh.
to perpetrate this type of behavior, cruelty, and evilness upon another person.
I absolutely love it when a judge says that. You'll never see the light of day, but only to the individuals that deserve it. And this girl is definitely by far one of them.
Go with the deputy.
Follow the smoke trail, ma'am. Right to your bunk. I'll help you lay down for the night.
You're correct, Mr. Greenwald. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Enough life and death sentences to last you at least a good another 6 months. Until I bring the part 3 your way, that is. As a matter of fact, I got 2 court cases that's going to fit right in. Not to mention, both of these episodes, the video quality in the courtroom is probably the best quality I've ever seen. Not 4K, it's more like 20K. Left me wondering what the heck kind of cameras they're using. Anyway, stay tuned for that, and the only way to do that is by hitting that notification bell, setting it to all. In the meantime, though, as always, y'all be easy, be safe, and more importantly than anything, stay free.